Cool. So, welcoming back Richard, officially the Director of Fun and President of Atlantic Tour. It's my favorite title. Based in Halifax. Richard, welcome back. How you doing?
Doing great, and what a nice pairing to be with Martin. As I said on the previous, we match well, covering off Atlantic Canada, and I know that as a company, some people may not know who we are. Atlantic Tours has been around for, I guess, 55 years, and I've been there 35 and had the great opportunity to purchase the company 13 years ago. And we specialize in Atlantic Canada. And today we're going to talk about the Maritime provinces of Canada. And the Maritime provinces are Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island. And when I use the term Atlantic Canada, we throw in Newfoundland and Labrador. So we have weekly guaranteed departures that cover all of Atlantic Canada. And the big term there is guaranteed to operate, which is great for your customers when they're booking their vacations to know it's going to operate. And we have both small group departures as well as regular size departures on 55 passenger motor coaches. So the regular size, we would cap at 46 people, and our small group, the maximum is 26 people, still on those 55 passenger coaches from a comfort perspective. So as you can see there on the map, we're stuck out in the Atlantic Ocean. I always think that closest to the UK. I mean, we have to go west quite often to fly to other places, but we do have our direct flights right into Halifax out of the UK, which is great. You see the big map of Canada. Canada is the second largest country in the world, and we're on the East Coast. I always like to say Canada began here because Nova Scotia and New Brunswick were two of the original provinces of Canada, along with Quebec and Ontario, and then Newfoundland was our last province to join. And so we have a lot of history and beautiful scenery. And the tour that I'm going to talk about today, Charlie, is the Maritime Tour, and that's the one that does Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. And you can see in the blue at the end of the itinerary is that this tour is combinable with our Newfoundland program. So those that have the time can come and do a nice 23-day tour, a comprehensive tour doing all 4 provinces. We also know that not everyone has even the 13 days to do the Maritimes, so we also have 2 shorter tours that are that can be taken: a 1-week Wonders of the Bay of Fundy and a 1-week Enchanting Islands. And once again, I put the Newfoundland and Labrador itinerary up there just so that you can see how it kind of works when you combine them. At the end of our Maritime tour, you would stay in beautiful Cape Breton Island for an afternoon to relax and refresh, and our tour would leave Halifax that morning and pick you up, go to get together for dinner, and then head to Newfoundland and Labrador. So our gateway into the region, our best airlift into Atlantic Canada, is the city of Halifax at our airport, our international airport. And what you're seeing here is an aerial view of the city itself with our fortification, Citadel Hill at the top. And as you work your way down to the water, that's our harbor. Halifax Harbor is the second largest natural harbor in the world after Sydney, Australia. A beautiful walkable city, other than it is on a hill. So we do the zigzag locally, so you don't have to climb the hill all at once. But what you see from Citadel Hill to the waterfront in both directions is no more than about a 20-minute walk if you're out walking around and exploring. It's a very youthful city, lots to do. And that first day is an arrival day. The only thing that's included is an overnight and a welcome reception, so you can meet the other travelers on our trips as well. The next morning, we're going to head off to the Bay of Fundy area of Nova Scotia, and the first part of our trip focuses on the Bay of Fundy. And we're going to the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Joggins, and this is a UNESCO site because of all the fossils here. You can walk out on the beach, pick up in your hand and hold fossils, and you'll learn all about that. And then you have the beautiful Bay of Fundy with the world's highest tides, which you'll learn a little bit more as the time goes on. After our time in Joggins and a nice included lunch, we're going to head off to New Brunswick, where we're going to go out on a lobster boat. We're going to haul up a lobster trap, learn about the lobster fishery, and have our dinner right on the boat, our lobster dinner, Acadian style. It's a wonderful experience. And then we're going to overnight in the city of Moncton. It's a bilingual city, French and English. very vibrant area. And what you're seeing here is one of our typical tidal rivers that would lead into the Bay of Fundy. And that means there's very little outflow of water, but this particular river is perfect for the tidal bore. So when the tide comes back in, the water rushes up this river and creates a tidal bore. And like I said, the difference between a high and low tide of 45 feet, 17 meters, and it's quite an incredible experience. After overnight in Moncton, we're going to head out to this area on the Bay of Fundy, Hopewell Cape. We call it the giant flower pot rocks. And here's a visual of walking on the ocean floor. You can see the tide coming in. And then even a little bit later, you can be out whale watching or kayaking, canoeing, and exploring the beautiful, rich Bay of Fundy.
And that's a really iconic spot, right? And you have mentioned the tides a few times, and it really is significant to life and the area. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Well, this is a prime example of that question, Charlie, is that growing up on the Bay of Fundy, I thought it was what it was like everywhere in the world. It's not until you travel that you realize that, a lot of folks don't have, a 4 or 6 foot tide, but 54 feet. So you can see what happens when the tide is out, the boats sit high and dry in the mud. So it's not much good if your livelihood is based on fishing. You need to go out when the tide, when the water's high. So you go out and follow the tide in and out. So basically, your day changes every day, your work day, when you work with the Bay of Fundy tide. So here's a great example, as I said, of the boat sitting high and dry in the mud. We do a 2-night stay in the beautiful port city of St. John, and St. John history is a loyalist city. So when America became a country, a lot of people left America and came to what was then our area. And this was a loyalist settled community. We do a 2-night stay here right on the waterfront. And this is a quintessential stop in that this bridge is a bridge over the St. John River, which leads into the Bay of Fundy. You can see a cruise ship in the background. Well, this river empties into that Bay of Fundy, and it's a tidal river, just like the one I showed you earlier, but there's a huge gorge under this bridge that's about 16 feet. And then the tidal difference is another 16 feet. So when the tide comes in here, it makes the river like a lake, and that's the only time that boats can actually go through the river. Other than that, it's too tumultuous, too much churning of water that boats can't go through. So we make sure you get to experience reversing falls. We then go to the community of St. Andrews by the Sea, which is kind of a resort community, playground for the wealthy in the early days. And we're going to go on a whale watching boat tour. And the Bay of Fundy is the summer feeding ground for the endangered right whale. There's less than 300 in the world. And there's many other species like the humpback and pot whales and dolphins. But, we go out amongst the islands, you get a chance to see bald eagles. It's a beautiful day spent in this community. The following day, we're going to cross the Bay of Fundy by ferry, some more opportunities for whales and seabirds as we travel on this 2-hour ferry to the community of Digby, back in Nova Scotia. And we're going to stay at this property, the Digby Pines Resort, a beautiful pool here. They have a golf course, nice hiking trails. And we're going to go down and spend some time right at the wharf where you can talk to fishermen. The largest scallop fleet in the world is located in the town of Digby. And after our overnight, we're going to head to the beautiful Annapolis Valley on the Bay of Fundy, where I grew up. And when I grew up, it was a lot of apple orchards, and some of the most fertile land in Canada is located here for fruit growing. But about 35 years ago, we realized that grapes grow very well here. We're the same line of latitude as a lot of the grape growing countries in Europe. And so we've a young industry, but producing great quality wines. We even have our own appellation called Tidal Bay. And so it's just a beautiful day that we're going to spend going to this one winery that we include, Planters Ridge Winery. You're seeing some of the beautiful farmland and the grapes in the background. And of course, our tours are filled with lots of great local stuff. We're doing culinary tourism before it was even fashionable, because we always like to include a lobster experience. And so, yes, there's you see fresh strawberries there during strawberry season, and even the Tidal Bay Appellation wine is shown there in the bag. But the apple orchards are even getting a renewed focus with new varieties, but we're also finding ciders becoming very popular, as well as brew pubs. So we embrace all of the local delicacies in our menus. You see some fresh peaches there.
Yeah, and food and wine is such a big part of the trip, right? And another way to connect with, like, say, the locals. And yeah, and you were doing it way before it was fashionable, but culinary tourism is a big part of it. So it's an important part of the trip, right? And these photos look amazing.
Well, I mean, you don't need to complicate great seafood. Butter and garlic and wine go a long way. So you're seeing a beautiful pan of scallops there. Our mussels on the right-hand corner, steam mussels, are to die for. They're delicious, succulent, and the clams, and then you see the oysters here as well, very popular in the region. And we're going to do an afternoon stop at the Grand Pré National Historic Site, and now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, because of the dike land that was reclaimed from the Bay of Fundy that is still surviving today from the 1600s. And we learn all about the deportation that happened in 1755 here, where the Acadians eventually ended up down in Louisiana and became our Cajun cousins. So that's all part of our story. And then we loop back to Halifax for a 2-night stay in the middle of the trip. So it gives you a chance to explore our capital city. We do a day trip out to the community of Peggy's Cove, which is beautiful. The lighthouse is one of the most photographed places in North America. This is solid bedrock. Nothing really grows here. A small community of about 60 people. Then we're on to the UNESCO World Heritage town of Lunenburg. We learn about the famous fishing schooners, as well as a visit to the Red Building there, which is the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic. We do a nice walking tour through the heart of the town. Just a beautiful, relaxing day. And then on to Mahone Bay, which is famous for its churches. There's 5 churches in the viewing of this community, and one of the favorite picture stops for everyone. Very arts and crafts oriented community. And then back to Halifax. The following day, we're going to head over to beautiful Prince Edward Island by way of the Confederation Bridge, which itself is a feat of art, a 13-kilometer bridge going across the Northumberland Strait, and over to what is truly a stunning island, Prince Edward Island, or as Martin said earlier, PEI, we all call it locally. And one of the sites that we'll visit is Green Gables Heritage Site, which tells the story of Lucy Maud Montgomery, the famous book Anne of Green Gables, published in over 50 different languages around the world. And then we go to the smallest national park in Canada, Prince Edward Island National Park. But Prince Edward Island I always describe as a patchwork quilt of colors. It's absolutely stunning. 1.5 million acres of land with 1 million of it farmed, a lot of potato farms, the red soil, the beautiful beaches. Another beautiful view here of the dunes and some of the fields during harvest season. And then we're going to leave Prince Edward Island and head to beautiful Cape Breton Island, where we're going to do a 2-night stay in the beautiful community of Bedeque, right on the Bedore Lakes. And that was the summer home of Alexander Graham Bell, who was famous for the telephone, but actually he did so many other things. And this museum pays tribute to all of that, like the hydrofoil, early flights, his work with the deaf, a stunning museum. And then we do a full day on the beautiful Cabot Trail, one of the most scenic highways in the world. We travel the complete day, stopping at lots of spots for pictures and to get out and explore. And then back to Bedeque. Hopefully, while we're traveling about in the region, we're going to see some moose. There's a healthy population of moose and black bear and many other types of animals and critters. And then the final day before we come back to Halifax is a visit to Fortress Louisbourg, our 17th century fortress, where we learn all about the French and why this was built. Then if you're going off to Newfoundland, we take you to a hotel for the afternoon where you get a room, you can relax, and our tour to Newfoundland would leave Halifax that morning, pick you up, as I said, and take you to Newfoundland and Labrador. So that back to Halifax for our final night. Like I said, a youthful, vibrant city, lots of universities here, and lots of pubs, and just a warm, friendly place. So that concludes my trip there, Charlie, and I've tried to stay within the time frame.
13 days and 13 minutes. It's a quick tour, and yeah, much better when you're actually on the tour. It's a nicer pace. But Richard, we've covered so much and we've seen so much, and the pictures are absolutely stunning. So
I think it's important to also mention with the group that's listening today is that our guaranteed departures are one aspect of what we do. We do a lot of customization, tailor-made programs for other companies, and we're often the background for a lot of the companies that come here. We handle all of their tour programming, but we customize everything from family groups. And the other thing is all of our escorted tours are self-drivable. So we also have the self-drive itineraries. We just take out the components that don't make sense in an independent program. So all of those skills are available. And our reservations team are here to answer your questions. As you can see, I'm in my kilt. We embrace the Nova Scotia culture. Nova Scotia's Latin for New Scotland, and all of our guides are kilted on our tours. So it's a great opportunity. The tartan you see here is the Newfoundland tartan that I'm wearing.
Lovely. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. Lots of great comments in there as well. A few people are hungry, including me, after seeing that.
Well, it's lunchtime here. That's what I'll be having next.
Yeah, there you go. Some seafood for lunch. Sounds like a plan. I'm going to